At our neighbor's party, my wife laughed and said my best friend once tried to sleep with her. Everyone thought it was a joke. Except him. They say you never really know someone until you go through a divorce. In my case, I never truly knew my wife until I heard her make a joke about my best friend trying to come on to her. My name is Daniel Carter. 2 months ago, I was living what I believed was the American dream in a big 2-story house in a major city in the South. I had a solid job as a senior structural engineer at a respected firm. I had 2 incredible kids, Emily, 10, and Noah, 7, and Allison, my wife of over a decade. From the outside, we looked like the picture of suburban success. The neighbors waved when I mowed the lawn on Saturday mornings. Other parents at school events talked about how well-behaved our kids were. My coworkers envied what they saw as my perfect family life. And honestly, I believed it too, right up until the night of Dave and Jessica Reynolds' anniversary party. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand how everything came apart, you need to know how it started. I met Allison during my last year of engineering school. She worked at the campus coffee shop, and I kept ordering coffee I didn't even enjoy just to have a reason to talk to her. She had this laugh, completely free and real, that made everybody around her smile. Her blonde hair was usually pulled back in a messy ponytail, and whenever she focused on getting an order right, she had this habit of tucking loose strands behind her ear. You know, most people don't need 15 minutes to drink an espresso, she said to me one day after I'd been hanging around the counter. So either you really love bitter coffee, or something else is keeping you here. I mumbled something about the ambience, and she laughed that same laugh. 2 weeks later, we were dating. A year after that, I proposed in that same coffee shop. 6 months later, we got married in a small ceremony with our closest friends and family there. Ryan Mitchell was my best man. Jason and I had been friends since middle school. He was everything I wasn't: outgoing, spontaneous, and naturally charming. While I spent my days thinking about structural loads and stress points, Jason sold luxury real estate and drove a convertible. While I put money away for retirement, Jason spent weekends in Vegas. But somehow, despite how different we were, our friendship lasted. When I introduced him to Allison, they clicked right away. At the time, I was happy that my best friend and the woman I loved got along so well. Looking back now, maybe they got along a little too well. The first few years of marriage were everything I had hoped for. We bought our first house, a small starter home we painted and furnished together. When Emily was born, I cried while holding her tiny hand in the hospital. Allison took to motherhood so naturally, patient, warm, loving. When Noah came along a few years later, our family felt complete. I worked hard to provide for them, taking on extra projects and staying late more often than I wanted. Every promotion meant more stability for my family, but it also meant more pressure and less time at home. I didn't complain. It was for them, or at least that's what I told myself. We had routines that made our life feel steady and dependable. Sunday morning pancakes with the kids. Monthly date nights where we tried some new restaurant in a major city in the South. Summer trips to the major city in the South Coast. Building sand castles with the kids during the day and drinking wine on the balcony after they fell asleep. Every morning before work, Allison used to bring me coffee, kiss me on the cheek, and remind me about anything important happening that day. I call her during my lunch break just to hear her voice. Those little moments, those daily reminders of the life we had built, made me feel safe, like what we had was real, like it was built to last. Around our 8th anniversary, I started noticing small changes in Allison. The excited greeting when I came home from work turned into a distracted hello while she stared at her phone. Date nights, which used to mean something to both of us, kept getting pushed back or cut short. She joined a gym, changed the way she dressed, and started going out more often with the girls. Women I had either never met or barely knew. It began with tiny shifts, the kind you can almost talk yourself out of noticing. She stopped bringing me coffee in the mornings. When I called during lunch, she always seemed in a hurry to get off the phone. "Can't talk now, I'm in the middle of something," became her usual answer. She started spending hours at the gym and coming home with this glow I first told myself was just from working out. Later, I wasn't so sure. Her phone was suddenly like an extra limb, always in her hand, always turned face down whenever she put it aside. She'd step into another room to take calls, keeping her voice low. When I asked who was calling, her answers were always vague. Just Sarah from spin class or nobody important, just making plans. You should enjoy yourself too, she'd say whenever I asked about her new group of friends. You're always so serious, Michael. Live a little. I tried not to read too much into any of it. People change and relationships shift. We were both getting into our mid-30s. Maybe this was just Allison's way of getting back a little independence after spending so many years focused on the kids and the house. Jason stayed a regular part of our lives. He'd come by for dinner every few weeks, bringing expensive wine and stories about whatever adventure he'd just been on. The kids loved Uncle Jason with his pockets full of candy and little toys. He'd never settled down. Still searching for Mrs. Right, he'd joke, then add. Or maybe just Miss Right now. Allison always laughed a little harder than she needed to at his jokes. I started noticing it little by little. The way her eyes stayed on him when he wasn't looking. The way she'd touch his arm when they talked. The slight change in her voice whenever she spoke to him. I kept telling myself I was being paranoid. Jason was my best friend. Allison was my wife. They were the two people I trusted most in this world. Then the comments started. Small at first, almost easy to miss. Jason looked good today, didn't he? She'd say after he left. I wish you dressed more like Jason. Those fitted shirts really look good on him. Jason's so funny. He always knows how to make a girl feel special. Every comment felt like a tiny needle. Still, I kept my reactions under control. He's always been the fashionable one, I'd say, clearing my throat. Or, that's just Jason being Jason. I didn't want to come off insecure or jealous. I kept telling myself I was better than that. But then the comments came more often and not just in private. At a neighborhood barbecue, she announced to our friends, Jason's taking me shopping next week. He says my husband doesn't know how to dress a woman properly. Everybody laughed, including me, even though none of it reached my eyes. At my company Christmas party, she spent more time talking about Jason's success in real estate than my promotion. Michael's doing fine, but you should see the commission Jason made on his last sale. The man's a machine. One night at dinner with the Grants, our neighbors, Allison casually said, You know what Jason told me the other day? He said if Michael wasn't in the picture, he would have asked me out years ago. She said it with a laugh, like it was the funniest thing in the world. And I just sat there, my fork hanging halfway to my mouth, while the Grants suddenly found anywhere else to look but at me. Each time, I swallowed my pride and reminded myself that Allison had chosen me, not Jason. We'd built a life together. We had children together. A few inappropriate comments didn't erase 12 years of marriage. Then came Dave and Jessica Reynolds' anniversary party. The Thompsons had been our neighbors for 5 years. Dave was a dentist, Sarah was a pediatrician. They were celebrating over a decade together of marriage with a classy backyard party. White lights hanging through the trees, champagne everywhere, and catered food that was actually good. Pretty much everyone in the neighborhood was there, along with a few of my coworkers and their spouses. Jason showed up late, like he always knew how to make an entrance, wearing a tailored navy suit that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage. He kissed Allison on both cheeks, European style, then gave me a firm handshake and handed me a bottle of scotch. For the man who has everything else, he said with a wink. The night moved along well enough. Good food, easy conversation, one of those perfect a major city in the South Spring nights with just enough breeze to keep the mosquitoes away. After my second glass of scotch, I was finally starting to relax. I was standing with a small group that included the Thompsons, the Grants from across the street, and Jason. Allison came over, a little tipsy from the champagne, her cheeks warm and flushed. She slipped her arm through mine in a rare bit of public affection, and for a second it honestly gave me hope. Maybe tonight would be different. Maybe this could be a turning point. Maybe we could find our way back to each other. We were just talking about first impressions, Sarah explained to Allison. How we all met our spouses. Oh, Michael was so shy, Allison said, squeezing my arm. He kept showing up at the coffee shop where I worked, ordering espressos he obviously hated, just so he could talk to me. It was kind of adorable. I smiled, thinking back on those early days. What can I say? I knew a good thing when I saw it. And look at you now, Dave said, lifting his glass. 12 years and counting. Allison's smile slipped just a little. 12 years is a long time. An awkward silence followed, and Jason jumped in to fill it. So, what was your first impression of me, Allison? She looked at him a second too long before she answered. I thought you were dangerous. Dangerous, Jason repeated, sounding way too pleased with himself. In a good way, she said, her words a little slurred. I told Michael that friend of yours is trouble. Everybody laughed, but I felt that familiar tension start creeping up my spine. Remember when you came over that time Michael was away at that conference in out of town on a business trip? Allison went on, her eyes fixed on Jason. You brought that ridiculous bottle of tequila. Jason laughed. I remember the tequila. Don't remember much after that. Something cold dropped into my stomach. I had no idea Jason had come by while I was away at a conference. From the uneasy looks our friends were exchanging, it was news to them too. Michael was so boring back then. Always working, Allison continued, clearing her throat like she didn't notice the mood changing. All those business trips, late nights at the office. A girl gets lonely. Sarah tried to steer things somewhere else. Dave was the same way during his residency. I barely saw him. But Allison wasn't done. She looked around at everyone, then said in a stage whisper loud enough for all of us to hear, You want to know something funny? Even his best friend tried to make a move on me once. The silence after that was brutal. I could feel every eye on me, measuring my reaction. Jason's face had gone white, and his easy smile was gone. Allison, he started. I think you've had too much. Oh, come on, she cut in. It's just a joke. We can all laugh about it now, right? Water under the bridge. Then she turned to me, finally noticing the look on my face. Michael, it's funny, right? I mean, nothing happened. I didn't answer. Couldn't. The whole world had narrowed down to one sharp point, everything else fading out. In that moment, looking at my wife's hopeful smile and my best friend's guilty face, something deep inside me shifted. It wasn't only the suggestion that something inappropriate had happened between them. It was the careless way she threw it out there in front of everyone. Like my feelings didn't matter. Like our marriage was a joke. Like I think I need some air, I finally said, my voice strangely calm, even to me. I walked away from the group, through the Thompson side gate and down the street. I didn't stop until I got to the neighborhood park, dark and empty at that hour. Sitting on a bench, I tried to make sense of what had just happened. Was she telling the truth? Had Jason really made a move? Or was she just looking for attention, stirring up drama at my expense? Either way, it wrecked me. The cool night air didn't do much to quiet the storm building inside me. The park was still, just the far-off sound of crickets and the occasional car passing on the main road. I sat there replaying it again and again. Allison's careless confession, Jason's panicked face, the pitying looks from our friends. I had spent years building what I thought was a solid life. A respectable career, a beautiful home, 2 incredible kids, a marriage I believed in. And in one reckless moment, Allison had exposed the cracks in that foundation. Had those cracks always been there, and I'd just been too blind to see them? Or had something truly changed somewhere along the way? My phone kept buzzing with texts from Jason, from Sarah, from Dave. Nothing from Allison. I ignored every one of them. When I finally got home around midnight, Allison was already in bed, either asleep or pretending to be. I grabbed a blanket and slept on the couch, staring at the ceiling all night, going back through years of moments in my head, looking for signs I might have missed. The next morning, Allison acted like nothing had happened. She made pancakes for the kids, asked what my plans were for the day, suggested we take the kids to the movies that weekend. I stayed quiet, answering her with one-word replies. She finally addressed the elephant in the room. You're not seriously upset about last night, are you? She asked, with clear exasperation in her voice. It was just a stupid joke. Was it true? I asked. She rolled her eyes. Does it matter? It was years ago. Nothing happened. So it was true. He really did try something. Allison let out a dramatic sigh. You're blowing this way out of proportion. Jason was drunk. I was lonely. He made a move. I said, no. End of story. It's ancient history. And you never thought to tell me that my best friend read to get with my wife. And say what exactly? Hey honey, your friend hit on me? But don't worry about it. What good would that have done except make things awkward between you two? The casual way she dismissed my feelings felt like a slap. So instead, you decided to bring it up at a party in front of our friends and neighbors. God, Michael, when did you become so sensitive? It was a joke. I'm not laughing. Fine, be mad. Sulk all you want. I'm not going to apologize for trying to lighten the mood at a party. With that, she walked away, leaving me standing in the kitchen while the kids' half-eaten pancakes went cold on their plates. The next few weeks felt like a lesson in Arctic diplomacy. We only spoke when we had to, usually about logistics with the kids. I slept in the guest room, claiming back problems. Allison didn't question the excuse. Jason called and texted over and over, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. What was there even to say? Our friendship of more than 20 years suddenly felt like it had been built on quicksand. At work, I buried myself in projects, staying late most evenings. My coworkers noticed the change, but they were tactful enough not to say much beyond general questions about how I was doing. Everything okay at home, Michael? My department head, Richard, asked one evening when he found me still at my desk at late in the evening. Just catching up on some work, I replied, not looking him in the eye. He leaned against my doorframe. You've been catching up every night for 2 weeks. That's a whole lot of catching up. I sighed and took off my glasses to rub my eyes. It's complicated. Marriage usually is, he said with a knowing look. Richard had been divorced twice and was now happily married to his third wife. Want to grab a beer and talk about it? For a second, I was tempted, but the thought of saying out loud what was happening, of admitting that my wife had humiliated me in public and my best friend had betrayed my trust, was too much. I couldn't do it. Not yet. Thanks, but I should get home. The kids. Richard nodded and didn't push. The offer stands. Anytime. At home, I started paying closer attention to patterns I had ignored before. Allison's girls' nights always seemed to come with no photographic evidence. Her phone was always face down or locked. She would step outside to take certain calls, saying the reception was better in the backyard. One evening, after the kids were in bed, I asked her straight out, "Are you seeing someone else?" She looked genuinely shocked by the question. What? No. How could you even ask me that? You've been distant, secretive. And the comments about Jason. Oh my God, are you still on that? It was one stupid comment. One comment that revealed something you kept from me for years. What else haven't you told me? Her expression turned hard. I don't have to justify myself to you. If you don't trust me after over a decade of marriage, that's your problem, not mine. She stormed off and slammed our bedroom door hard enough to wake Emily, who appeared in the hallway rubbing her eyes. Is Mom mad? She asked in a small voice. I picked her up, even though at 10 she was getting almost too big for that. Mom and Dad are just having a disagreement. Nothing for you to worry about. Are you getting a divorce like Lily's parents? The question hit me like a punch in the gut. No, sweetheart. We're just going through a rough patch. All married people do sometimes. Lily says her dad made her mom cry all the time. You're not making Mom cry, are you? I felt a stab of guilt mixed with indignation. Was this how Allison was framing our conflict to the kids? No, Emily. I would never intentionally make your mom cry. Sometimes adults have complicated feelings, and they need to work through them. She seemed to accept that and rested her head against my shoulder as I carried her back to bed. I don't want you to live in different houses, she whispered as I tucked her in. I know, sweetheart. Let's not worry about that right now. Okay? Everything's going to be all right. As I kissed her forehead, I couldn't help wondering if I was lying to my daughter. That thought sat heavy in my chest and made me deeply uncomfortable. The next day, I did something I'd never done before. While Allison was taking the kids to school, I checked her phone. She had left it charging in the kitchen, and for once it wasn't locked. My hands were shaking as I opened her messages, knowing I was crossing a line, but I couldn't stop myself. What I found wasn't what I expected. There was no clear evidence of an affair with Jason or anyone else. But there were hundreds of messages in a group chat with women I had never met, and they were full of complaints about me. How boring I was. How I didn't understand her. How she sometimes wondered what her life would have been like if she had chosen differently. Michael's a good father, but God, being married to him is like watching paint dry sometimes. He got upset when I joked about Jason at the party. So sensitive. Honestly, there are days I fantasize about starting over. Is that terrible? Each message felt like a knife twisting a little deeper. These weren't the words of a woman who respected her husband, let alone loved him. In her private conversations, I was a joke, a burden, something standing in the way of her happiness. Scrolling further back, I found messages from around the time of the Thompson party. Jason's coming tonight. Should be interesting. He always makes these things less boring. Wearing that dress he said he liked last time. Let's see if Michael even notices. Then the morning after, well, that backfired. Made a joke about Jason hitting on me years ago, and Michael completely overreacted. Men and their fragile egos, I swear. The replies from her friends ranged from sympathy to encouragement, telling her to live her best life and not let me control her. One exchange, in particular, stood out. Friend. So, did anything ever actually happen between you and Jason? Allison. Not really. He tried once when Michael was out of town, but I shut it down. Kind of regret that sometimes. Friend. Jason's way more fun. Allison. I know. I'm not actually going to do anything, but a little flirtation keeps life interesting, right? I put the phone back exactly where I found it, feeling hollow. This wasn't just about Jason anymore. This was about a deeper disconnect in how Allison saw our marriage, our life together. That evening, I contacted a lawyer. David Lawson came highly recommended by a colleague who had gone through a divorce 2 years earlier. He was in his 50s, with salt and pepper hair and the calm demeanor of someone who had seen it all. Tell me what's going on, he said after we got the basics out of the way. I explained everything, the Thompson party, what came after, the messages I had found. As I talked, I realized how hard it was to put into words the sense of betrayal I felt. Has there been any physical infidelity that you know of? Robert asked, jotting down notes. I don't have proof, I admitted. But there's a pattern of disrespect and secrecy that makes it hard to trust anything she says. Robert nodded. A major city in the South is a no-fault divorce state, so we don't necessarily need to prove infidelity. But when it comes to custody arrangements, the court will look at factors that reflect character and the home environment. I want my kids, I said firmly. They shouldn't have to grow up watching their mother disrespect their father. That's not healthy for anyone. I agree. Let's talk strategy. Over the next 2 weeks, I followed Robert's advice carefully. I documented everything. Allison's absences, her dismissive remarks, the inconsistencies in her stories about where she had been. I saved screenshots of conversations where she mocked me to her friends. I gathered financial records, made copies of important documents, and stored them outside the house, all while keeping up the appearance that everything was normal. During that time, I also made an effort to be more present with Emily and Noah. I left work earlier when I could, helped with homework, showed up to Noah's soccer practices and Emily's piano recital. I wanted them to feel that no matter what was happening between their mom and me, they came first. One evening, I took them out for ice cream after dinner, something we hadn't done on a whim in a long time. As we sat at a picnic table outside the ice cream shop, Noah happily tearing through a chocolate cone, Emily looked at me with a thoughtful expression. You're different lately, Dad, she said. Different how? I asked, curious how she saw it. She shrugged. I don't know. You're around more and you seem sad but also not sad. It's weird. That's actually a pretty accurate way to put it, I admitted. I've been doing a lot of thinking about what really matters. Us? Noah jumped in, chocolate smeared all around his mouth. I smiled and reached over to wipe his face with a napkin. Yes, buddy. You two are the most important thing in the world to me. Never forget that, okay? Even more important than your big building projects? Emily pressed, as usual, testing the edges. Those buildings will still be standing long after I'm gone, I told her. But they're just concrete and steel. You two are my heart. Emily seemed satisfied with that, but then she asked, is Mom important too? The question carried more weight than it should have for a 10-year-old. Your mom will always be important because she's your mother, I said carefully, and will always be connected through you two. It wasn't really an answer to what she was asking, but it was the most honest one I had in that moment. Are you feeling better? Allison asked one evening, almost a month after the party. You seem less tense. I've been doing some thinking, I said, choosing my words carefully. She seemed pleased, taking it as me giving in rather than stepping back. Good. I hate when things feel weird between us. Me too. That weekend, Allison told me she was going on a girls' trip to a girls' trip out of state. Just a few days, she said. You'll be okay with the kids, right? Of course, I said, helping her pack. Have fun. As soon as her rideshare pulled away from the curb, I set the final part of my plan in motion. First, I called my parents, explained the situation, and asked if they could come stay with the kids for a few days the following week. They agreed right away, concerned but supportive. Are you sure about this, Michael? My mother asked, worry clear in her voice. Divorce is such a big step. I've never been more sure about anything, I told her. You'll understand when you get here. Next, I contacted the school, updated them on the situation, and made sure they knew who was authorized to pick up the kids. Then I called Jason. He picked up on the first ring, his voice cautious. Michael, I've been trying to reach you. I know we need to talk. Can you meet me? We agreed on a neutral spot, a coffee shop downtown, far from the places we usually went. When I got there, Jason was already sitting down, nursing a black coffee and looking unusually quiet. Thanks for coming, I said as I sat across from him. I owe you an explanation, he started. I raised a hand. Before you say anything, I need to know one thing, and I need the truth. Did you and Allison ever sleep together? Jason's eyes went wide. No, never. I swear on my life, Michael. I watched his face closely, looking for any sign he was lying, but all I saw was real distress. But you did make a move on her when I was out of town on a business trip. He closed his eyes for a second, then nodded. Yeah, it was years ago. I was drunk. She was being flirtatious. It was a terrible mistake, and she shut it down right away. Nothing happened. I've regretted it ever since. Why didn't you tell me? I was ashamed. I didn't want to lose your friendship. And Allison said it was better to just forget it, that telling you would only hurt you for no reason. He leaned forward. Michael, you have to believe me. It was one stupid, drunken mistake. I would never. I believe you. I cut in, surprising both of us when I realized I meant it. But I need to know everything. Has there been anything else between you two? Flirting, messages, anything I should know about? Jason shook his head firmly. Nothing. After that night, I kept my distance. I respect our friendship too much. Then why did she bring it up at the party? Why joke about something like that in public? He ran a hand through his hair, looking honestly confused. I really don't know. I was just as shocked as you were. Maybe she thought enough time had passed that it could be funny. Or maybe. He hesitated. Maybe what? Maybe she wanted to hurt you or me, or both of us. The idea just sat there between us. Uncomfortable, but hard to ignore. There's something else you should know, Jason added after a moment. Allison's been talking to mutual friends, people in the neighborhood. She's been saying things about you that aren't true. My stomach tightened. What kind of things? That you're controlling. that you track her phone and watch her spending, that you've threatened to take the kids if she leaves. He looked genuinely uneasy. People who really know you don't buy it, but she's been convincing. This was worse than I expected. It wasn't just private disrespect anymore. She was actively damaging my reputation, maybe even setting the stage to paint herself as the victim. I'm filing for divorce, I told him. I've already started the process. Jason nodded slowly. I'm sorry it's come to this. What can I do? Would you be willing to give a statement about what actually happened that night and about the rumors she's spreading? Absolutely. Whatever you need. As we stood to leave, Jason hesitated, then said, For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. You deserve better than this, Michael. For the first time in weeks, the weight on my shoulders felt just a little lighter. I might have lost my wife, but maybe not my friend. The following Monday, Allison came back from a girls' trip out of state in high spirits. She brought back cheap souvenirs for the kids and talked nonstop about the bars they went to and the musicians they met. You should have seen this one guitarist, she went on. Absolutely incredible. And his eyes. I swear, if I wasn't a married woman, I just smiled and nodded, letting her talk. That night, after the kids were asleep, I suggested we open a bottle of wine and sit down. That sounds nice, she said, clearly pleased, like she thought things were going back to normal. Let me change into something more comfortable. While she was upstairs, I grabbed the envelope that had been delivered that morning and set it on the coffee table next to her wine glass. When Allison came back down, wearing a silky camisole that looked more intentional than comfortable, her eyes went straight to the envelope. What's that? She asked. Something I need to look at? She sat next to me on the couch, closer than she had been in weeks, and picked it up. As she pulled out the papers, her expression shifted from curiosity to confusion to shock. Divorce papers? Is this a joke? No joke, I said quietly. I'm filing for divorce, and I'm seeking primary custody of the kids. She stared at me, then let out a sharp, disbelieving laugh. Because of one stupid comment at a party? Are you serious right now? It's not about the party, Allison. It's about respect. Or really, the complete lack of it you've shown me for years. This is insane. You can't just. I've seen the messages. I cut in, calm but firm. The ones where you mock me to your friends, where you call me boring, where you talk about what your life could have been with someone else. I also know about the rumors you've been spreading, trying to make me look like some controlling monster. Her face went pale. You went through my phone? You invaded my privacy? Yes, I did, and I'm not proud of it. But what I found confirmed what I already knew. You don't love me, Allison. Honestly, I don't even think you like me. That's not true, she shot back. But even she didn't sound convinced. People vent to their friends. It doesn't mean anything. It means everything, I said. And it's not just the messages. It's the constant put-downs. The way you undermine me in front of our friends. In front of our kids. The secrecy. The lies that don't quite line up. I deserve better than that. And so do our kids. Her expression hardened, the shock giving way to anger. You're never getting custody. I'm their mother. Being their mother doesn't give you the right to create a toxic environment, I said. The court will look at what's best for them. And growing up watching you tear me down every chance you get. That's not it. This is ridiculous. No judge is going to take kids away from their mother because she made a few jokes. We'll see. I held her gaze. In the meantime, my lawyer recommends we set up temporary arrangements. My parents are coming tomorrow to stay with the kids. I'll be moving to a hotel for the time being, and they'll help keep the kids' routine steady while we sort things out legally. You already set all this up behind my back. She stood up, outrage pouring off her. You can't just make these decisions on your own. Actually, I can. You'll be served officially tomorrow. My lawyer will contact yours to start negotiations about dividing assets and custody arrangements. The reality of it all seemed to finally land with her. Michael, wait. Let's talk about this. We can figure it out. Couples therapy. Maybe it's too late for that. Allison, I've made my decision. Because of Jason, she demanded. I told you nothing happened. I know. I spoke with him. He confirmed that you turned down his advance that night. But that's not the point. The point is that you hid it from me for years, then used it as ammunition to humiliate me in public. That says a lot about how you see our marriage. She stared at me, looking for a weakness, a crack in my resolve. When she found none, her tactics changed. The kids will be devastated. Is that what you want, to tear apart their home because your feelings got hurt? Don't use our children as emotional leverage, I said, keeping my voice even despite the anger burning inside me. They deserve parents who model healthy relationships built on mutual respect. That's not what they're getting right now. Tears filled her eyes. Whether they were real or strategic, I couldn't tell anymore. I love you, Michael. Despite everything, I do. Please don't do this. For a moment, I felt my resolve waver. 12 years of marriage, 2 children, countless memories. Was I really ready to walk away from all of it? Then I remembered the messages, the mockery, the casual cruelty dressed up as humor. The way she made me feel small in my own house, at my own dinner table, in front of my own friends. I'm sorry, I said, standing up. My mind is made up. I spent that night in the guest room, listening to Allison switch between crying and making angry phone calls to her friends. The next morning, I explained to the kids as gently as I could that Mom and Dad needed some time apart to figure things out, and that Grandma and Grandpa would be staying with them for a few days. Are you and Mom getting a divorce? Emily asked directly, repeating the question she'd asked weeks earlier. This time I didn't lie. Yes, sweetheart, we are. But that doesn't change how much we both love you and Noah. Will we have to move? Noah wanted to know, his main concern characteristically practical. Not right away, buddy, I assured him. We'll figure everything out together, one step at a time. Will we still see you every day? Emily pressed, her eyes filling with tears. Pulled her into a hug. There may be some days when we're not all together in the same house. But I promise you, I will always be your dad. And I will always be there for you. Nothing will ever change that. Noah joined our hug, his small arms wrapping around my waist. I don't want you to go, he mumbled against my shirt. I fought back my own tears. I know, buddy. This is hard for all of us. But sometimes adults have to make difficult decisions to build a better future. A better future without Mom? Emily asked, her voice small. A better future where both your mom and I can be the best parents possible for you, I corrected gently. Sometimes that means living in different houses. When my parents arrived, Allison was coldly polite, holding together a brittle composure in front of the kids. As I packed a suitcase, she followed me into our bedroom and closed the door behind her. You're making a terrible mistake, she said, her voice low and intense. I will fight you on this, Michael. You won't take my children. They're our children, I corrected. And I'm not trying to take them from you. I just want what's best for them. And you think that's you? The workaholic who's barely home, who misses school plays because he's stuck at the office. Each accusation hit like a blow, but I refused to get baited into an argument that would only support her version of me as volatile or unreasonable. We'll let the court decide what arrangement is in their best interest, I said calmly, zipping my suitcase shut. In the meantime, I suggest you speak with a lawyer. As I moved toward the door, she grabbed my arm. Don't do this, please. We can start over. Go to counseling. Whatever you want. For the first time, I saw real fear in her eyes. Not fear of losing me, I realized, but fear of losing control, of facing consequences, of having her carefully built image as the perfect mother and wronged wife challenged in public. Goodbye, Allison, I said, gently lifting her hand off my arm. My lawyer will be in touch. The next few weeks were a blur of legal meetings, temporary hearings, and getting used to life in a sterile extended-stay hotel. The initial shock among our friends faded into people quietly taking sides, with mutual friends awkwardly trying to balance divided loyalties. To my surprise, a lot of them stood by me once the full story came out. Jason's testimony about Allison's behavior and the rumors she'd spread carried real weight, along with statements from neighbors who had seen her publicly put me down over the years. Dave and Jessica Reynolds were especially supportive. We've seen how she treats you, Sarah told me over coffee one morning. The little digs, the backhanded compliments. It's not right, Michael. It never was. Why didn't anyone ever say anything? I asked, not accusing, just honestly wondering. Dave sighed. You don't want to interfere in someone else's marriage. We told ourselves it was just her sense of humor, that you were okay with it since you never pushed back. I'm sorry we didn't speak up. Another unexpected ally was Melissa Grant, who had been close with Allison for years. She's been saying awful things about you, Karen told me, claiming you're emotionally abusive, that you monitor her every move. I know that's not true. We've known you both for 5 years, and anyone paying attention can see who the manipulative one is. Allison, meanwhile, swung between trying to reconcile and launching harsh attacks. One day, she'd send messages about working things out for the kids. The next, she'd accuse me of emotional abuse and threaten to destroy me in court. Robert advised me to document everything and only respond through official channels. She's digging her own grave, he said after one especially vicious email. Judges don't look kindly on this kind of behavior. The temporary custody arrangement gave us equal time with the kids, alternating weeks. I rented a small house near their school and set it up with their comfort in mind, making bedrooms that matched their rooms at home as closely as I could. Emily and Noah adjusted better than I expected, though there were still hard moments. Emily especially asked questions I didn't always know how to answer. Did you stop loving Mom? She asked one night as I tucked her in. Love is complicated, I tried to explain. Sometimes people can care about each other but not be good partners anymore. Mom says you got mad over nothing and blew everything up. I sighed, choosing my words carefully. Your mom and I see things very differently, but I want you to know I thought about this for a long time. It wasn't something I did lightly or because of one small issue. Will you and Mom ever get back together? The hope in her voice hurt to hear. No, sweetheart. That's not going to happen. But we'll always be your parents and we'll figure out how to do that in a way that's best for you and Noah. The weeks of alternating custody gave me a whole new perspective on being a parent. Without Allison taking the lead on certain parts of raising the kids, I had to step up in ways I hadn't before. I learned how to French braid Emily's hair after watching videos online. I got Noah's bedtime routine down, including the exact stuffed animals in the exact right spots. I got good at packing lunches, checking homework, and managing after-school activities. You're actually pretty good at this, Dad, Emily said one morning while I braided her hair before school. Thanks for the vote of confidence, I said with a small laugh. No, I mean it. Mom always said you wouldn't know what to do with us on your own. The casual way she said it stung, but I kept my face steady. Well, I'm learning, and you two are helping me a lot. I like it here, Noah said, eating his cereal. It's quiet. Quiet? I asked. He nodded. Mom yells a lot at her house, at her friends on the phone. Sometimes she cries. I glanced over at Emily, and she gave a small nod to confirm it. She's really mad at you, she added. She says you've ruined everything. I took a slow breath. I'm sorry you're stuck in the middle of adult problems. That's not fair to either of you. We're okay, Dad, Emily said, sounding older than she should. We know you love us more than anything. I nodded. You're right. I do. As the case moved closer to trial, Allison's position started to fall apart. Her attempts to paint me as controlling backfired when our financial records showed I'd always given her full control over her own spending. Her claims that I was an absent father were contradicted by school records showing I consistently attended parent-teacher conferences and school events, even with my work schedule. The most damaging evidence was the text messages and emails I had saved, showing her ongoing disrespect and the satisfaction she seemed to take in humiliating me. When her friends were questioned, they reluctantly backed up that pattern. 2 days before our court date, Robert called with an update. Allison's lawyer reached out. They want to settle. What are they offering? Joint legal custody, but with you as the primary physical custodian. The kids would live with you during the school week and stay with Allison on weekends and certain holidays. Child support based on standard guidelines. And she's willing to give up her claim to your retirement accounts in exchange for keeping the house. I thought it over. It was more than I expected Allison to give up. Why the sudden reasonableness? Robert let out a short laugh. My guess? Her lawyer finally got through to her that her case isn't as strong as she thought. The evidence doesn't make her look good, and judges around here tend to be pretty traditional. A wife publicly humiliating her husband doesn't play well. After going over the details, I agreed to the settlement. As hard as the process had been, dragging it out would only make things worse for everyone, especially the kids. The final divorce decree was signed on a Tuesday morning in June, exactly a few months after the party at the Thompsons. Allison and I sat at separate tables with our lawyers, avoiding eye contact while the judge reviewed and approved everything. "Mr. and Mrs. Moore," the judge said at last, "your divorce is granted. I sincerely hope you can both move forward in a way that puts your children's well-being first." Outside the courtroom, Allison walked up to me for the first time that day. She looked different somehow, smaller, less sure of herself. "So that's it," she said. 12 years over, just like that." "It's been over for a while," I replied. "We just didn't want to admit it." She nodded, blinking back tears I didn't expect. "For what it's worth, I am sorry. Not for everything. I still think you overreacted about some things. But I shouldn't have said what I did at the party, and I shouldn't have talked about you the way I did with my friends. It wasn't a full apology, but it was probably the closest I'd get. I appreciate that. What do we tell the kids? The truth in a way they can understand. That we tried our best, but couldn't make the marriage work, and that it's not their fault, and that we both love them," she added. Always. An awkward silence settled between us. 12 years of shared life reduced to not knowing how to say goodbye. "I should go," she finally said. "I'm picking them up from school today, right? I'll see them Friday then." "Friday," she repeated, then paused. "Take care of yourself, Michael." As I watched her walk away, I felt a mix of emotions. Sadness for what we lost, relief that it was finally over, and a cautious sense of hope for what might come next. That evening, alone in my new house that was slowly starting to feel like home, I called Jason. "It's done," I told him when he picked up. "Signed and sealed. How are you feeling?" I thought about it for a second. Lighter, like I can finally breathe again. "That's good. Really good. I was thinking about grabbing a beer somewhere." "You free?" There was a short pause. "Yeah, absolutely. The usual place." "Perfect." After I hung up, I looked around the living room. I was starting to make it my own. Photos of the kids on the mantle, a stack of engineering journals on the coffee table that no one would make fun of me for reading, and a kitchen where I could cook whatever I wanted without hearing sarcastic comments about my cooking.